My YouTube channel is called Romans 9:20, which reads, "But who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Well, what is molded, say to its molder, why have you made me like this? Has the potter no right over the clay to make one vessel for honorable use and another for dishonorable use?" When I saw, "Why have you made me like this?" the question that I had been asking my entire life in the Bible, I couldn't believe it. It changed everything. Hi, my name is Ronald. Welcome to Romans 9:20, a channel where I break down the Bible book by book, verse by verse, to help us understand God's word a little bit better. Romans 9:20-21 uses the analogy of a potter and clay to explain God's sovereign authority and humanity's limited perspective. Verse 20, Paul, who wrote this, rhetorically asks, "But who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Well, what is molded, say to its molder, why have you made me like this?" This highlights the foolishness of creation, questioning its creator. We, as the created, don't have the right to challenge God's purposes and design. Verses 21, he continues, "Has the potter no right over the clay to make out the same lump, one vessel for honorable use and another for dishonorable use?" This illustrates God's freedom and authority to use his creation as he sees fit. Just as the potter can shape clay for different purposes, God has the sovereign right to choose some for his special purposes, honorable use, and others for different roles, even seemingly dishonorable use in his overall plan. So, does this mean that we shouldn't question God? That's a nuanced question, and the interpretation of Romans 9:20-21 often leads to discussions about the nature of questioning God. Here's a little breakdown to clarify what Romans 9:20-21's emphasis is. It's the attitude and presumption behind the questioning. It strongly cautions against arrogance or defiant questioning. Questioning God with a spirit of entitlement, accusation, or the belief that we know better than Him. This is the answering back that Paul rebukes. It implies a rejection of God's authority and wisdom, demanding answers or setting conditions, treating God as if he owes us an explanation or needs our approval for his action, focusing solely on our individual perspective without acknowledging God's broader purposes. We often only see a small piece of the puzzle, while God sees the whole. However, the Bible also shows examples of people questioning God in different ways, which can be seen as valid forms of seeking understanding in humility, asking questions with a sincere desire to learn more about God's ways and grow in faith. Examples include David's lament in the Psalms or Habakkuk's questioning of God's justice, expressing doubt or struggles honestly, sharing our difficulties and wrestling with God's actions in a way that acknowledges our limitations and dependence on Him. This isn't about challenging His authority, but being honest about our human experience, seeking clarification of His will, asking for guidance and direction in our lives. The key difference lies in the heart and intent behind the questioning. Negative questioning stems from pride and a desire to challenge God's sovereignty. It says, "Why did you do this? I don't understand, therefore you are wrong." Positive questioning stems from humility and a desire to know God better. It says, "I don't understand and I trust you, but I long to understand more of your ways." Therefore, Romans 9:20-21 isn't a blanket prohibition against questioning God. Instead, it's a strong warning against the specific kind of questioning, one that is rooted in arrogance and a refusal to acknowledge God's ultimate authority and wisdom. Bad. Questioning God with defiant, arrogant, or accusatory tone. Good questioning, potentially questioning God with humility and a desire for understanding and a recognition of His sovereignty, especially when expressing honest struggles or seeking His will. It's about the posture of our hearts when we approach God with our questions.